Have you been thinking about making the move to Phoenix, Arizona and want to learn how to do so? Really the full step-by-step guide. Well, in today's video, I am doing exactly that. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and keep on watching. Okay guys, if you're anything like me, you've already probably started the first step, which is going to be, of course, plan, and then plan some more. So if that is you, again, you can go ahead and skip to the next step. But first things first, definitely a solid, not even a solid plan, but like a beginner plan, a rough draft plan, if you will. We really want you to have an idea of kind of location, right? So like whether that be East Valley of Phoenix, whether it be the West Valley, whether it be, you know, your top 5 cities that you're interested in, you definitely want to have somewhat of an idea. I'm assuming since you're watching these videos, that's kind of something that you've already done, or if you're just now starting that, go back into my channel, watch all the bajillion of videos that I have over each city, and hopefully that'll help you on that journey as well. But if you're a little bit past that and now you're kind of really starting that plan, we want to make sure you have an idea of location. Obviously, I'm going to be meeting with you guys at some point to really narrow down this location, but I want you guys to have an idea of kind of what the next place that you live looks like and have that set aside for when we do meet. The next thing you want to keep in mind is obviously when it comes to planning is your budget. We want to make sure you have an idea of like how much all of this is going to cost outside of just like the house itself, right? That is my main portion of it all, but I have relocated before. I helped tons and tons of people, like 95% or more of my clientele is relocation clients. So we want to make sure that you guys understand the budget, at least a broad idea of that, so that way you can plan better as well. The other thing is going to be timeline. Timeline's a huge one. Do we want to move in 3 months? Do we want to move in 6 months? Do we want to move in a month? That is going to change the plans drastically, obviously. Moving in a month versus moving in a year or 2 years, totally different things. So we want to make sure you have an idea of that. The other thing is going to be jobs. We want to make sure that if you're relocating, you're going to have a job when you get here. That's a huge part of qualifying to purchase a home in the first place. So whether that be already talking to your job, your current job about relocating to Arizona, if they have positions available here, if that is going to be working remote, or if that's going to be finding a new company to work for here in Arizona that's similar to your current job. Either way, we want to make sure we have somewhat of an idea of how that's going to work, because that's going to make a big difference in our budget. And a lot of the times we have a husband and wife buying homes, not always, but we want to make sure that that makes sense too. Maybe like the husband can just qualify on his own, so the wife cannot have a job until she gets here, and vice versa, whatever works best for your guys' family. But that's something that I would consider as well. The last one is going to be, of course, schools. Schools is a really big one for a lot of families. If you guys are very particular on what type of school you're looking for your child, we want to make sure that we're doing that research in advance. As a realtor, I can't go too much into depth on like what school is better than others, but obviously you guys can do that. You can do a quick Google search and kind of find that information for yourself as well. I always suggest niche.com, NICHEE.com. It's also linked, I believe, in my description down below, so you guys can check that out. Type in the school that you're thinking of. They have a lot of different reviews on that kind of stuff, so that would be really helpful. And also, outside of just public schools, definitely consider public charter schools if that's something that you're interested in. And then also, just remember, we are an open enrollment school system, I guess, in the state of Arizona. So say you end up going to Verado High School, and this is just a scenario, made up scenario. Say your kid decides, or you decide that you want your kid to be in the Verado High School district. And then you decide, actually, I hate that school now that my kid goes to it and I don't like it. It wasn't exactly how it was portrayed maybe online. I want them to go to Millennium next year, or vice versa, like whatever, it doesn't really matter. My point being is you guys can always switch. You just have to get approval and a variance, but those are pretty common. So if the school's not already full, you'll definitely be able to transfer your child to whatever school makes sense most for you guys. And that's the best part about public charter schools is, of course, they're not really like based off of a location. Of course, you'll have to drive to them, but I went to a public charter school. There's no like boundaries. So that's always nice too, if you're considering that. Not saying they're better than the other or anything like that, but you guys will have to make that decision for yourself. But those are some major things you want to keep in mind prior to the next step. Okay, next step is going to be, of course, meeting with me so we can go way more into detail on the plan and really solidify all the things, right? And this can kind of go hand in hand with the first one. Of course, if you guys really need help and have no idea where to begin, I can also meet with you guys prior and really help build out that plan in advance. Not everyone is wanting to do that necessarily. So if you're still in the research phase, totally fine. But the next step is definitely going to be meeting with me so we can solidify those plans. So whether that be, you tell me, this is a perfect example. You tell me that you want to be within 10 minutes of shopping. Like you want to be 10 minutes within an actual mall. Well, Buckeye is not going to be the place for you. And maybe you didn't know that because you're not from here. Or maybe you want to be within 30 minutes of downtown Phoenix because that's where your job is and you're thinking that maybe portions of Surprise will work for you. That's not going to be necessarily the case either. So we definitely want to sit down and put together a plan and adjust the plan based off of what you guys are wanting and needing. As a native here to Arizona, I am super familiar to basically everything. I mean, you can ask me a question, you can ask me a location of something and I'll probably know it. Of course, I'm not like this superhuman necessarily, but I think it helps a lot when it comes to planning. I've also relocated myself. So yes, I'm native to here, but I did move to Denver for about a year and then moved back. And I really think that it helped me understand the relocation process more than just say, of course, I help tons and tons of people relocate here and that's one thing, but to actually relocate yourself is a whole different ballgame. So I'm able to help you guys through that process if you've never relocated and or if you've never even lived in Arizona or been to Arizona. Some of you guys have never even been here before actually moving, which is absolutely insane. So anyways, we definitely want to sit down and kind of go through timelines. If it's, if you're telling me you want to move in a month and you still have a house to sell and all these other things, I'm going to have to let you guys know, of course, that that's not probably going to be possible. Granted, I'm all for pushing the limits and things like that, but I also want you guys to have a realistic expectation of what living in Arizona is going to be like and also what the moving process is going to be like as well. I'm never going to sugarcoat things. I think if you've been on my channel before, you know that's kind of like my personality is to not sugarcoat necessarily. So during our meeting, we're going to be going through so much, and sometimes it's kind of long, so just be prepared for that. But by the end of the meeting, you're going to be feeling so much more prepared than you ever could have, say, if you would have not reached out. So we're going to be going over, of course, the buying process. Even if you've bought a home before or multiple homes before, but not in the state of Arizona, it's going to be a different process. Every single state has a different process. Me personally, being licensed in a different state before, I didn't realize that when I was only licensed here in Arizona, but then I moved to Colorado, got licensed there, realized that not every single state is the same. So be prepared for that as well. If you've bought a home before, it is somewhat similar, so don't be like too scared necessarily, but we're gonna dive a little bit into that and kind of what the costs are and all of the fun things that come along with purchasing a home. Just so, again, if you're like me, you wanna be prepared because we're psychos and that's how we are. So after we do that portion, we're also going to dive into cities. This is the most fun part more than anything, is to make sure that you guys are really happy with the top, let's say, 3 locations that you're interested in. Of course, sometimes just going into these Zoom calls and talking about it in the Zoom call is not going to necessarily put you to be like the absolute most confident. A lot of the times my clients come and visit in person and we meet for the first time. Even if you guys aren't ready to necessarily buy, I definitely meet you guys at a couple different locations, showing you some homes, what to expect, walking you through that process again. I also give you a guide that I created that's going to basically be like a scavenger hunt for all the cities. So if you want to start off on one portion and then go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one, I've already kind of made that map out for you, so it makes it a lot easier when you're looking into a new place. I want to make sure that you guys are actually looking at the locations that are going to be more relevant to you, not a random little grocery store out in the middle of nowhere, but actually like where majority of the shopping is going to be. I want to make sure you guys see that kind of stuff, and then also see some of the neighborhoods that are going to be in your preferred price point. So that is what that scavenger hunt does, and another reason why you guys should definitely reach out prior to actually even visiting, so I can give that to you as well. But we want to make sure after we go over kind of the cities, we're actually going to look at houses online together and just kind of go over some of your absolute must-haves, your wants, your absolute must-not-haves. all of that stuff, because I want to make sure that when we meet in person, if we ever meet in person prior to you guys going under contract, we want to make sure we're on the same exact page. It makes the process so much easier when we actually start looking at homes. I can be in your brain of like, okay, this is exactly what they like. This is what is attractive to them with these homes online. So I think that that's really important. And then we can also fix out any of the bugs. So for example, sometimes when you're looking at photos, you don't notice certain things. So I will be able to say, oh, hey, this one backs a pretty busy road. Are you okay with that? Yes, no. All right. If you say no, we're going to cut those kind of homes out. If you say, oh, I hate the jet noise. Some people hate it. Some people don't mind it. I want to make sure I know that so that we can X-nay certain places out, because most of the surprise is going to not necessarily be a fit if you don't want jet noise. These are just some of the examples that I can give you that we go over again during that Zoom meeting. So that is why it's super, super important to meet with me. Either you can do that first or second, but either way, it is absolutely mandatory when relocating. Okay, step number 3 is getting pre-approved. Getting pre-approved is pretty important, especially even before you're making the move out here, even if it's a few months out, because I wanna make sure that you guys aren't necessarily wasting a lot of your time doing all of this research and planning and all of those fun things to find out that you can't really get the house that you want when you move here. So typically, I end up using Oscar for all my relocation clients. You guys can use whatever lender that you want. You do not have to pick him, but he is one of the people that I trust with my clients who are relocating. He pretty much gets, I don't know, 99% of them. So he is super easy to talk to, whether you actually get the full pre-approval or just want to have a simple conversation with him about an idea of how much the payment's going to be. I would highly suggest that, because that way you can even plan more. And again, this channel is all about planning because we're psychos like that. Definitely highly suggest getting pre-approved. Another reason why you want to get pre-approved is because there might be something there that you don't even know is there until you start that process. So for example, I had a client who had reached out to me about a year prior to actually making the move. They were just doing their due diligence, planning, getting all that stuff ready to go. So whenever they had, I forget what the scenario was. Oh, their apartment lease was going to be up. They wanted to move after that. Well, they didn't want to get necessarily fully pre-approved. So we're coming down to the end of the year and they have about 3 months left on their apartment lease. Then they get pre-approved. They realize that there's something on their credit that there wasn't before or that they didn't know about, and now they can't make the move. That would absolutely suck. So that is why I, again, suggest getting pre-approved, just so we can make sure that there's no issues. There probably won't be, crossing my fingers, but that is definitely an important one. And also having a conversation, I keep saying also, but there's a lot of things, right? So also Oscar will help you on the job aspect of it all too. We want to make sure when you move here, is it going to be a job where it's a brand new career and now that might affect your qualifications? Are you going to be relocating? Is that going to affect your qualifications? Are you going to be going from full-time to part-time? Is that going to affect your qualifications? All of those fun conversations. Oscar is your go-to guy, or whoever you want, whichever lender, but we want to just make sure we're having those conversations in advance. Okay, this one is kind of a weird one because it might not be applicable to every single person watching this video, but of course, if you are having to sell and buy at the same time, this is an important one because we want to start making a plan for that. I'm actually going to do a whole separate video exclusively just for the people subscribed to my newsletter. That link will be down below, going over all the steps that you need to be prepared for when selling and buying at the same time, how to pick a listing agent, when to start thinking about this, how do the offers work when it comes to purchasing your home in Arizona when you still have a home to sell in whatever state you're coming from, and then also the different types of programs that can help you do that simultaneously without the massive headache that sometimes that thing can be. So definitely go ahead and subscribe down below. That video will be coming out on Wednesday of this week, so you definitely are not going to want to miss that. That'll help you make the process so much more smooth and hopefully make the hassle of selling and buying at the same time not as scary. But let's talk about the next step that is relevant to every single person making the move. We're finally getting into the fun part of this whole thing. Granted, I think it's pretty fun doing the Zoom calls with me, but I think collectively, everyone can agree the house shopping itself can be much more fun, and it's probably the most exciting part of it all is finding that home that really, really fits your family. The relocation side of looking at homes when you're not in the state that you're actually moving to can be kind of tricky. So I think that I have made it a lot more simple for a lot of my clients when it comes to relocation. What I'm typically doing, and of course I would love it if every single person could come in person, shop for a whole weekend, and then leave with the house that they want. That would be, you know, the best case scenario. I love when I can meet with you guys in person and do that whole experience in person. But again, that's not gonna work for everyone. A lot of you guys live states and states away where plane tickets are not gonna be cheap for you to come here every single weekend until you find the house that you love. So typically what I'm doing for these type of clients is we're doing virtual tours. Virtual tours could be FaceTime, it could be Zoom. So whether you have an iPhone or not, we can definitely get the job done. And that's where I am going through this house and telling you every single thing that I noticed. And also we're going into the neighborhood itself, showing you the street, showing you the exterior of the home, showing you the neighbors' homes and the whole feel of the area. So it can be a little bit nerve-wracking doing these virtual tours, of course, especially when you end up finding the home that you really love. So for example, we are doing a virtual tour. I'm telling you all the things that you need to know about the house, whether it be, you know, I mean, I'm pretty crazy because I just want you guys to fully know what you're walking into. So whether it be like a little bit of a scratch on the baseboard, like I know that might sound a little bit crazy. I'm definitely showing you those kind of things so that way you're definitely prepared. I don't want you to come to the home and hate it. That is my absolute worst fear and not my goal at all. Typically my clients are saying about 99.9, there's always room for error, but 99.9% of the time, the clients are saying that they loved the home more or just as much as they did in the video. So I feel like that's a complete win. But of course, again, there's that 0.1% that maybe the home isn't going to be the right one once you see it in person. It just doesn't have the feel that you were looking for, right? That is where the inspection period comes into play. So in the state of Arizona, we have the first 10 days, unless otherwise stated. We can make it shorter, we can make it longer. Typically about 10 days is going to be your inspection period where you're going to do any and every inspection that you could possibly think of that you would want. So whether that be sewer, whether that just be a basic inspection, roof inspection, HVAC inspection, literally anything you want, not being dramatic, but literally. That is, well, actually, I am being slightly dramatic. You can't bust down the wall or anything crazy like that. But if there's an inspection for it, you can definitely do it, is my point. So during that time, you guys can cancel for literally any reason that you would ever really want to cancel for. So say you're able to come during that inspection period and you're able to get there on day 5 of the inspection period. We go and we take a look at the home and you decide, Nicole, this is not the right house for me. I want out. What do I do? It's as simple as saying, we don't want to move forward with this home. It wasn't a good fit. And that's that. So of course, when it comes to money, that's always a good question. Like, am I going to lose any money from this? Not necessarily. So you're going to put your earnest money down, right? To secure this home, to say, I want to buy this home. You put your earnest money down. Earnest money is similar to security deposit. It's just saying, I'm going to fulfill this portion of the contract. And if I don't, my earnest money is at risk. If I back out during specific times, I can get my earnest money back. Inspection period is one of those times. So say you put $2,000 down for your earnest money, right? Get here on the 5th day of the inspection period and you say, nope, I don't want it anymore. If you've done your inspection itself, like you've paid for the basic inspection, which is around $450, that money you do not get back, obviously, because they've already done the actual inspection. And that's an outside cost from this actual home experience of it all. You will, however, get your $2,000 back, right? That's the most important thing. So usually my clients end up going that route because it could cost, I mean, for a last minute flight, $600+ depending on where you're coming from. It's much easier to swallow that $450 inspection fee than paying for hotel, car, and the flight itself. That usually ends up being a lot more expensive. So That's kind of what my clients are doing right now during the inspection period. So just keep that in mind. Virtual showings sound scary, but they're actually not as scary as we make it out to be. I purchased my own personal home without seeing the house ever in person, except for during the inspection period. Of course, I fell in love with the house, I moved on, but that is something that a lot of people do here, and it's not as scary as you may think. Once we find the home of your dreams, of course, there's going to be tons and tons of things that are gonna happen within that contract. I'm not necessarily gonna go over that in this video because this is really outside of the actual contract. I want you guys to be prepared for the moving portion of it all, right? That is super, super important, and we wanna make sure it goes as smooth as possible. The contract part, let me handle it. You guys will be very well prepared, and also it's just a bunch of real estate jargon. So we go over that in our Zoom calls again, just so you guys do know, but I repeat myself a million times throughout the process, just so I know that my clients feel super 1000% comfortable in their decision to purchase a home and that they are well aware of what is going on throughout the process. But also something you have to keep in mind once you go under contract, outside of the contract itself, is all the other things like how much is a moving truck gonna be? Let me get my home insurance, get quotes for that. Let me get car insurance. Let me cancel all my subscriptions that are like for gyms that aren't in this new state that I'm moving to, or, you know, clubs that I'm a part of that I'm not gonna be able to be a part of anymore. All of those things you definitely need to also keep in mind when you're making the move here. Once you get into your home, you don't wanna have to stress about random things like that. I would highly suggest taking care of that within probably about a week to a week and a half after going under contract on your home. Of course, we wanna make sure during that inspection period, everything goes smooth and you do wanna continue on with the home, but the next 3 weeks, it's gonna feel like it's gonna just fly by. So I wanna make sure that you guys, when you get here, you can just focus on unpacking and learning your new area, because it's gonna be kind of overwhelming if you wait to the very last minute to get all of that done, especially getting quotes from movers, depending on where you're moving from. I've heard multiple times from my California clients that it's really hard to get movers right now, just because kind of everyone's moving out from there, like really hard to get U-Haul trucks, really hard to get moving trucks in general, because they can't confirm whether or not they're actually gonna have anything available at that moment. So all of this stuff, we definitely want to make sure that we're wrapping all of that up and tying up all the loose ends before you make your move. All right, guys, that's it. Very, very last step is, of course, making the move to Arizona. The end of a chapter and your previous state and the beginning of a beautiful brand new chapter here in Arizona. Hopefully I can be the person to help you with this chapter and the new journey you're about to begin. If you have questions or you want to set up a Zoom call with me, my number and email are popping up. I would love, love, love to help you out. If you're not quite ready to reach out yet, go ahead and subscribe. I post videos every Monday at 5 p.m. Also, down below, I have tons and tons of different links. So whether that be an actual like paper, well, not paper, typed copy of the relocation guide, I go over pet tips, I go over my favorite cities, I go over a few different things that you guys could definitely use when you're making the move here. So whether that you want to download that or you want to subscribe to the newsletter, so then you can get access to the video that's coming out on Wednesday about selling and buying at the same time, how to pick your listing agent, all of the fun things that go with buyer contingencies, selling and buying at the same time, all the fun timelines that come along with that. So if, again, you want to do that, go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.